Senator Kerry made no mention of the attack in his economic speech. An aide said he had no intention of
personally responding. But when pressed after the speech, he took issue with the vice president's tone, not his criticism.
You know, it's sad that they can only be negative. They have nothing to say about the future vision of America. I think Americans want a positive vision for the future.
In the speech at issue a week ago, Senator Kerry vowed to destroy terrorist networks. And aides say by promising to be more sensitive, he simply meant more diplomatic with other countries, much as President Bush used the term 6 weeks after taking office.
Precisely because America is powerful, we must be sensitive about expressing our power and influence.
The Bush campaign attacks are designed to protect a critical campaign edge, a 13-point advantage over Senator Kerry when voters are asked who would better handle terrorism. Another Bush-Cheney strategy is daily questions about Senator Kerry's vote in favor of the Iraq War. That is more risky. It was Mr. Bush who launched the war, and nearly half of Americans now think it was a mistake to send troops to Iraq. But just among Democrats, 74% call the war a mistake, and the White House thinks the more Senator Kerry has to explain his vote, the more anti-war Democrats might become disillusioned with his candidacy. And Senator Kerry here in Oregon tonight, senior advisors for his campaign concede the Bush-Cheney campaign has had some success in raising questions, perhaps even doubts about the senator's views on Iraq and his broader approach to the war on terrorism. These advisors attribute the attacks to a Bush White House they insist is worried, but they also concede, Miles, they need to do a better job of answering them.
I suppose the best defense is a good offense. Given events in Iraq and around the world, you could make a suggestion that the table should be turned, that the Bush campaign should be on its heels. Some pretty successful campaigning, I'd say.
It is one of the most interesting dilemmas and issues of this campaign. Senator Kerry believes he can score points talking about what happened after the bombs started dropping in Iraq, saying the president did not have a plan for the peace. The Bush White House believes it can mute those criticisms and put Senator Kerry on the defensive by making him explain and defend his vote to go to war. Both campaigns believe you have a polarized electorate, and the winner will be the candidate who most effectively turns out his votes on Election Day. And the White House is banking that if Senator Kerry is out there publicly saying, yes, I voted for the war in Iraq, that enough Democrats, even if it's just a tiny sliver, Miles, will get disillusioned and not vote. They think that will help, but you're right. Senator Kerry, and he just did it in this speech here, says the issue should be, did the commander-in-chief have a plan not only to win the war and win the peace? He says this president did not. Miles?
You know, it's interesting, John, though. Every poll I read shows that Americans are most concerned about the economy, and yet the debate always goes back to this. Why?
Well, certainly President Bush is at a disadvantage right now when it comes to the economy, which is another reason the Kerry campaign says it will focus on the economy for the next 2 weeks, run up to the Republican convention. Some aides were very disappointed that the senator even responded at all to Dick Cheney's criticism today. They wanted him to stay focused like a laser on the economy. Now, they believe in the end that will be the big issue. What the Bush campaign is banking on is that because there are 140,000 U.S. troops in Iraq, still troops in Afghanistan, still the terrorist threat, that come a week before the election, all Americans will sit back and think about a threshold question. Do they want to change commanders-in-chief in the middle of a war? And the Bush campaign is banking on the fact that that answer for enough voters will be no. That is one of the key debates.
John King with the Kerry campaign, thanks very much. Ahead on Newsnight, the battle for Najaf. U.S. forces launch an assault, raid the home of a radical cleric. Could this American offensive ignite a firestorm throughout the Muslim world? A live report from Najaf is next. Also, Hurricane Charley just hours away from bearing down on Florida. Hundreds of thousands are in harm's way. We'll give you the latest predictions for Charley. From the CNN Center in Atlanta, this is Newsnight.
Next time you start on your way, think about the gasoline you choose. Introducing Shell V-Power, our new premium-grade gasoline. It's our most advanced fuel ever. With more than 5 times the required cleaning agents, it's specially formulated to actively clean your engine as you drive. You have enough to deal with out there. Your gasoline can make a difference if it's new Shell V-Power.
I really appreciate the community partnership that we have with Walmart. Their associates volunteer all over the city.
Walmart's been a wonderful neighbor. They built a path for our golf carts to make the store accessible.
Walmart is great for our city. They have always been there when we needed them.
Walmart helped us build a Korean War Memorial. It means a lot to know that they would honor our sacrifices.
It's just been a wonderful partnership. was so happy they moved in.
This election year, undecided voters have already made one decision. CNN is #1 for campaign coverage. CNN, America's campaign headquarters.
Don't be scared, son.
Ed! It's me! That house in the city just passed inspection, so you can close next week.
Wow.
I wanted to tell you in person.
Nobody works harder for you than RE/MAX. That's why nobody in the world sells more real estate.
I've seen a lot of changes since I've been working at Charter. At first, people were just getting basic cable. That's all you had. Now we've got the most advanced digital cable system available, and we offer customers the fastest high-speed internet connections. Technology changes so fast, and Charter's products are leading the way in advancements and ease of use. We want our customers happy, and we'll do whatever it takes. That's our promise, or your money back, guaranteed.
Inside the Scott Peterson Amber Fry phone tapes. Larry King, CNN 9 Eastern.
In Iraq today, the long-awaited push against a rebel cleric and his army began in earnest. Long-awaited, perhaps long-dreaded as well. Thousands of American and Iraqi lives are on the line, and so is a very delicate political balance which extends far beyond the borders of Iraq. Here's CNN's Matthew Chance.
What up, mate? Go, 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 come on! I got a hole right here!
This is how the US Marines made their house call at the gates of the Mehdi army leader in Najaf.
Let's go, kid. Kid, mitts up!
These are exclusive CNN images of a raid on the home of Muqtada al-Sadr. He was long gone, but as this new offensive against his Mehdi army rages, it was a strong message. Back down or be hunted.
Go, 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 go. Where's he coming from?
We are currently now moved over to this private hospital here, which we believe Sadr used as another headquarters for his bodyguard. And right now we have just gone through Sadr's house. The house was clean, and we're currently exploiting anything we can find inside.
US forces have now unleashed awesome power to crush the Shia uprising. Military officials say thousands of troops, backed by tanks and helicopter gunships, have been raiding Mehdi army strongholds. And when the insurgents hold out, like at this Najaf school, airstrikes are called in. For many Iraqis, this is overkill. The US military says it's using restraint.
The reason we're here is because the government in Najaf has asked for our help to restore law and order and control to the rightful Iraqi government. Being very careful to stay away from the mosque area, definitely not going to do any damage there. We're using a lot of restraint in our operations, but
on the streets of Najaf, the fighting is intense. Civilians have been urged to stay in their homes, but many have been fleeing the city. This has been a display of overwhelming US firepower, but the battle for Najaf is far from won.
That was CNN's Matthew Chance in Najaf. Coming up on Newsnight, tears of sorrow. Same-sex couples react to the news of a California court. Thousands of gay and lesbian marriages are no longer legal. Also, the pageantry of the opening ceremonies of the Olympic Games just hours away. We go back in time when the Olympic movement was all about blood, brutality, and nudity. You heard it right. This is Newsnight.
Coverage of America Votes 2004 is sponsored by Samsung. Excellence is within everything we create. Samsung Electronics. Log on to cnn.com/election for in-depth analysis of this year's presidential race.
One look is all it takes. The Samsung LCD television with picture-enhancing DNIE technology. It's hard to take your eyes off it. Experience the power within. Samsung.
Think about it. Casinos, dancing girls, swimming pools, surrounded by a sea of neon lights. We'll make millions, I tell you. What do you think?
I think you ought to stay out of the sun.
You never know when a golden opportunity will come your way, like the Lexus Golden Opportunity Sales Event. Get your favorite Lexus vehicle at an incredible price.
A 24-hour drive-through chapel!
See your Lexus dealer.
Why does the U.S. Olympic team compete with the support of thousands of Gateway PCs? Because serious competitors require serious power. Right now, Gateway can equip you to compete with free double memory and a free processor upgrade on our 310T power package, all for just $499.99. You'll get a fast Intel Pentium 4 processor, a big 17-inch monitor, extra memory, and gold medal service and support. A complete system for just $499.99. Call 1-800-GATEWAY now.
I love old homes and homes with character.
Called a gable roof, I think it is.
Huge kitchen with an island in the middle.
I don't know the terms. I get lost in the process.
Warranties, inspections.
All the different types of insurance that you have.
Title closings.
Contingency clause.
What are they going to take? What am I going to offer?
Who does it? Who do I call? I have no idea.
If you're looking to buy a home, you need someone with expertise to help you. Ask your agent if they're a realtor, a member of the National Association of Realtors.
My realtor's my partner.
Trying to book a vacation, huh? You know where these will get you? There's an easier way to book your vacation. At cheaptickets.com. It's simple. Just click. You're there. And you'll save big when you accessorize your flight with a car or a hotel that you'd actually want to stay in. Just click. You're there. You don't even need a password. How simple is that? Now that I booked mine, let's do you. Book together and save up to 50% on a vacation. Cheap tickets. Just click. You're there.
Every morning, CNN's American Morning connects you directly to the news.
CNN is now reporting.
Breaking news.
What a moment of panic.
Trust American Morning, where real news makes the difference. CNN tomorrow, 7 Eastern.
Anderson Cooper 360, where the world comes full circle.
Around the corner, around the country, around the world.
See why Esquire magazine calls this cable's most refreshing news show. CNN, tomorrow, 7 Eastern.
It's been just shy of a century since two big storms pounded the state of Florida back-to-back. 98 years, to be precise. Tropical Storm Bonnie hit this morning, doing little damage to speak of. Hurricane Charley, on the other hand, well, people from the Keys to the Panhandle spent the day making ready for something a lot more consequential. The plywood went up, the bread and water were bought, and people began leaving for safer ground. Authorities are urging about 800,000 people from the Keys to Tampa to evacuate, and that may soon become an order. For the latest on where things stand at the moment, we turn it over to CNN's Orlin Sidney in the Weather Center. Hello, Orlin.
Miles, thanks a lot. Right now, the center of Hurricane Charley is located 200 miles south of Key West, moving now to the northwest at about 17, 18 miles an hour. The wind speed has been holding at 105 miles an hour. That's a strong Category 2 storm. The latest satellite images, though, it really looks like it's taking on a little bit more of a ragged profile, so we might actually see the winds drop a bit and then perhaps pick up again as it moves north of Cuba and moves away from the interaction with land. What we have for you currently are the warnings from the Dry Tortugas through Key West to 7 Mile Bridge. A hurricane warning is in effect, and then from East Cape Sable northward to Bayport, we also have a hurricane warning. That means hurricane conditions are expected within 24 hours, and down in Key West, you believe it, Winds are up to 16 miles an hour now, but the thing that you're getting is some of the outer rain bands and even some tornado warnings up towards Marathon. We had reports of strong thunderstorms with rotation. Again, these are some of the outer rain bands moving in. We expect to see this storm perhaps as strong as Category 3 across the area of the Keys, 2 a.m. in the morning. Miles.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that storm surge. That is a big concern aside from the winds and the rain.
That's exactly right. And as strong, the stronger the storm is, obviously, the bigger the surge is. As this storm works its way northward towards Tampa, we're looking at a potential landfall about 2 p.m. tomorrow, maybe as strong as Category 3. That would give us a storm surge of 10 to 13 feet before it moves on off. That could be a real problem for folks, obviously, across the West Coast, not just in Tampa, but that'll be the area we think will have the strongest impact.
And in some cases,
the later in the day you get, the closer you're going to get to the time of high tide. So that certainly will be a problem as well.
Orlin Sidney, she's got her cot set up in the Weather Center. Good luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Still to come on Newsnight. Tonight on Larry King, the president derided those who spend a lot of time talking about politics as the chattering class. Well, guilty as charged, I suppose. We'll chatter about the interview shortly. Later, more on the explosive announcement by the New Jersey governor. He is gay and he is resigning. The announcement sure surprised us, but what about a reporter who has covered Jim McGreevey for 20 years?
I love what I do. I love the people I work for, and I love the company I work for. I've had some great mentors in the past. I had one general manager that was just real significant in my career, making sure that I finished college and went on to do more. I started off as a part-time cashier at a Sam's Club, and now I'm the vice president over the stationery department at Walmart. There's so much at Walmart that you can do. I want to continue my career, and I want to continue growing. It started out as a job for me, but it ended up being an amazing career. My name is Teresa, and I've been with Walmart for 18 years.
Attention homeowners. Need cash to consolidate bills, pay off credit cards, home improvements? Don't wait for interest rates to go up. Apply now for a second mortgage with a no closing cost option from Ditech.com. Ditech.com is a direct lender, so there's no middleman or broker fee to pay. Don't wait. Get the cash you need now with a second mortgage from Ditech.com. Call 1-800-DITECH-1 or log on to Ditech.com now. Ditech.com, your mortgage solution delivered.
7 years ago, Bristol-Myers Squibb medicines literally saved my life. I simply wouldn't be here without them. Today, Bristol-Myers Squibb researchers are focused on our most serious diseases with revolutionary treatments for cancer and AIDS. These researchers dedicate their lives to fighting our most serious diseases. And these medicines can make the difference for millions of us. I'm living proof of that. Hope, triumph, and the miracle of medicine. Bristol-Myers Squibb Company.
Seen in Tomorrow, Scott and Amber's secret love tapes.
Hello? Amber, are you there? I'm here. Can you hear me?
Inside the Scott Peterson Amber Fry phone tapes. With Court TV's Nancy Grace and more. Larry King Live, Seen in Tomorrow, 9 Eastern.
What's disappointed you?
The bitterness inside Washington. It's different than I thought. Certainly it wasn't that case in Austin, Texas when I was the governor.
You were never hated there?
Oh, I don't pay.
How do you react to that?
I just don't pay that much attention to it.
The President of the United States responding to our own Larry King tonight. Mr. Bush and First Lady Laura Bush there for the entire hour, touching on a wide range of issues above and beyond the bitter tone in Washington. Joining us from Washington to talk about the interview and presidential politics in general, David Sanger of the New York Times and Liz Marlantes of the Christian Science Monitor. Good to have you both with us.
Thank you.
I want to play a few clips and get your response to it. Let's start with the first one. This one is on the subject of war.
It's painful to know that a young American has lost his or her life in combat. It's painful because I know how broken-hearted their loved ones are. We have met with their loved ones a lot.
Oh, you have?
You bet.
Because we don't see any stories.
Well, you shouldn't. These are private moments. These aren't moments.
Liz, I suppose a cynic would say we don't see those moments because the President and the White House doesn't want to call attention to the fact that the casualty toll continues to mount there. And what's interesting to me is as you see events unfold in Iraq, it belies what's happening on the campaign. The Bush campaign seems to be on the offensive on this point.
Absolutely. They went on the offensive on Iraq really hard this week. It started with Bush issuing a sort of challenge to Kerry to get him to say whether he would have voted the same way, knowing then what he knows now. And Kerry took the bait and said he would, and then Bush immediately cast that as a flip-flop, and they really haven't let up. Today you had Dick Cheney out there castigating Kerry for a comment he made earlier that he would fight a more sensitive war on terror. So this has really been, we've seen a strong, strong push from the Bush campaign this week to really question Kerry's credentials in national security and specifically on Iraq. Bush has really tried to seize that issue back, and you're right. In a week when casualties are continuing to mount, there's something sort of ironic in that, but absolutely, Kerry was the one on the defensive this week.
David, how do you explain that? Complete outmaneuvering on the part of the Bush campaign or ineptitude on the part of the Kerry campaign?
Well, a little bit of both, and I don't think this one is over. I was talking to a number of people in the Kerry campaign about this yesterday when I was writing on this topic, and what I think is interesting is that the President did exactly what Liz said, issued this challenge. Mr. Kerry did take the bait, but then the President came back and said, well, you know, Mr. Kerry and I now are in complete agreement that we needed to go to war in Iraq, which of course is not what Mr. Kerry's position has been. It has been that he voted to authorize the war because he thought that the President needed the maximum negotiating leverage, but then thought he would take a series of steps, which Mr. Kerry has described quite at some length. The difficulty for this position for Mr. Kerry is that this is hardly the kind of bumper sticker talk that happens in presidential campaigns, particularly as they get down toward the end, and we're now within, what, 83, 84 days. And so Mr. Kerry's had a very difficult time, I think, trying to get, to use his word, the nuance of his position out there. And the President has twisted it just enough to make nuance sound like flip-flopping.
All right, let's move on to another subject. This one is gay marriage, of course, in the news today. Let's listen for a moment.
It's too important an issue for judges to make that decision. And I think one way to guarantee that traditional marriage is defined as between a man and a woman is through the constitutional process.
What about the union of gays?
Well, that's up to states. You know, if the states choose to do that, in other words, if they want to provide legal protections for gays, that's great. That's fine. But I do not want to change the definition of marriage. I don't think our country should.
Liz, it's a bit of an evasive answer. Is it enough for the right wing of the GOP?
I think so, yes. I mean, Bush is really sort of where the majority of Americans are on this issue in the sense that, you know, most Americans do not favor gay marriage. They don't want to deny rights to gays, and so Bush, you know, made clear tonight that he felt there were other ways to make sure that homosexuals get the same sort of rights as all Americans, but he cast it as a question of democracy. This is something that Americans should make up their minds in the states, and this shouldn't be left up to judges, which is sort of what he's been saying all along. And I think that is a position that will sell well in most parts of the country.
Of course, David, it's worth pointing out there's not much daylight between Mr. Bush and Mr. Kerry on this point.
There isn't, and you know, it was that answer and the answer on stem cells, Miles, that struck me that the President was using this interview to very much move right down the middle. Sometimes when we are out in the campaign trail with him, depending on who the audience is, you hear him make an appeal that's very clearly to a more conservative, more right-wing element of the party. But with this audience, he was clearly trying to appeal to mainstream and perhaps the swing voters. And so he took a down the middle road, or at least what his party would view as one. And in fact, at one point in that, he was asked by Mr. King, so what about inheritance? They couldn't do, if you deny gay marriage, then you deny the rights of inheritance the way a husband and wife would have it. And he said, well, the answer to that is get rid of the inheritance tax.
I thought that was a pretty good answer. Definitely. All right, David Sanger, Liz Marlantes, thank you both very much for your time. Appreciate your instant analysis. Still ahead on Newsnight, the fight over same-sex marriage. A California court declares thousands of marriages invalid. We'll have the story for you in just a moment. Also, a return to Olympia when Olympic athletes wore olive oil. Just olive oil.
Moneyline Roundup is brought to you by Bank of America. Higher standards.
Two lattes.